What's up, cousin, and welcome to CoCo Conjure. Here we talk about all things hoodoo, folklore, and spiritual journeys. My goal is to give foundation to the novice and inspiration to the advanced practitioner. If you have not guessed already, my name is CoCo. A shout out to Cousin Morgoth on YouTube. On the last folklore episode, Cousin wrote, "Don't get me wrong, I love these, but also I need a new Other Tales original in my veins, stat J. Please continue the story." Well, Cousin Morgoth, as evident by the title, this is an Other Tale original. So this short story is written by me using my knowledge of folklore and spiritual work while we follow our root lady extraordinaire, Monroe Devereaux. Normally, I would like to tell you that it doesn't matter if you listen to the previous episode, but cousin, you should go back and listen to the previous episode, as this entry is part 2 of our previous Other Tale original titled Monitoring the Devil. I will be sure to link a playlist of all Other Tale originals if you would like to go back and listen. Now, also, usually at the end of every episode, I do a breakdown, but I'm not going to do it this time. I'm going to do it right now, cousin. Right now, I'm going to give you the breakdown for this story. Are you ready? Pad and pencil out. Okay, here we go. Cousin, this is a folklore tale. That's it. It's a folklore tale, okay? The magic is real obvious in the story. We just going to have a good time. That's it. So I'm glad I could provide that clarification. So, without further ado, I present to you The Hag Says Boo. When Hattie Mae left St. Stephen's, she did so with a desperation to live and a drive to chase joy. She and her husband, the Reverend John Moultrie, had a nasty fight about their current living situation right before she left. It's the same fight they've always had. John wanted things to remain the same. He wanted to stay in town and preach. He wanted their son Junior to continue his legacy by taking up the call of the cloth. And he wanted Hattie Mae to be the perfect Mrs. Reverend. She had to be prim and proper and poised, care for the house with a smile, use her body to make his babies with a smile, put her husband's needs and wants first with a smile. Hattie wanted to live, and living meant change. She wanted to leave town for a month and travel. She wanted to listen to new music and dance and enjoy all the world had to offer. Over the years, the Reverend denied her all of that. Finally, she settled on small desires that would make her life as Mrs. Reverend more bearable. She wanted to change the house and add a sewing room, and she wanted to cut down that stupid tree in the front yard. The thing was a death trap during the rains, and it was an eyesore for her morning meditations on the front porch. And when she mentioned these small, low-cost changes to her husband, he simply said no. And when she asked why, they argued about her right to know why. Before she left, they'd been in that cycle for 10 years. She was done with the arguing. She was a 69-year-old grown-ass woman. Most of that 69 years was spent living her life for others. She put her time in. Why should she have to fight for her small joys? Worse yet, she was losing the fight to gain her small joys. She didn't want to die as a side character in someone else's story. So, one night, when her husband John was sleeping, she left. And when he called her and demanded she stop her tantrum and come home, she hung up on him. And when he called again, she was on a plane headed to Puerto Rico. And the third time he called, she was dancing the electric slide on the pool deck of a Virgin cruise ship. And when he called a fourth time, She was talking murder mysteries with her new girlfriends while sunning on a pink sand beach, a boozy tropical drink in hand. And when that trip was over and she was faced with going back home, she got in her car and drove west. It's been almost a year since she left town. Hattie adjusted her grip on the steering wheel and shifted in her seat. She'd been on the road for 10 hours straight. It made her sciatica act up some kind of bad, and she reminded herself to do her stretches after she inevitably argued with her John once she got to his house. Her decision to come back to St. Stephen's was actually driven by her son, John Jr. Yes, her husband continued to call every day she was gone, and each time it was more pathetic pleading for her to just come back so he could fix it. A humiliation ritual that Hattie took pleasure in any time she listened to the voicemail, knowing that she would never call back and never block his number. Her son, however, only called her twice. First, to tell her that he understood why she left and was happy that she went. But the last time he left a message, it was to tell her that he hated her. She replayed her son's voicemail in her head. Pop's never been easy, but I didn't deserve this. It's been almost a year and that man is losing his grip on reality. He's chasing after this witch woman. He's pushing me to fix up the house and cut down the tree. And he's praying that by doing all of this, you'll just miraculously come home. But I hope you never come home. 'Cause you didn't just leave him, you left me. Left me to pick up the pieces of Pop. And I hate you for it. I don't hate you for what you did to him, what you're doing to him. He deserves it. But I hate you for abandoning me. Hate you for being selfish. No mother wants to hear that their child hates them, especially after all she did. She blew his nose with her mouth when he couldn't breathe as a baby. She loved him before she ever looked in his eyes. She encouraged him to live his life and not the life the reverend had set out for him. No, that was a particular hell that she herself had to endure all on her own for the tenure of their marriage. So, to hear that he hated her was heartbreaking. But she did make a selfish decision. She didn't think about anyone but herself when she left, and that was by design, yes. But by leaving the way she did, he was right to accuse her of abandoning him along with his father. She didn't think about her son when she stayed away, not when she wandered the deserts in Arizona, or when she tried shrooms in Mexico, or when she ziplined in Guatemala, or when she stood on an iceberg in Alaska, or when she meditated at a silent retreat in North Dakota, or when she saw a Broadway show in New York. She was just living loudly in spite of the man she yoked herself to when she was too young to understand the consequences of her choice. Honestly, she thought her son would be all right. She didn't raise a lazy loser after all. But she left more than a house to care for, a husband to follow, and a role to play. She left her baby boy with her tormentor. And now he had to carry the burdens that she ran away from. Hattie Mae turned up the music in the car to help clear the depressing thoughts. She didn't know what to say to either of the men she left behind once she saw them. And as she passed the Welcome to St. Stephen's sign, she figured it was too late to figure it out. So, instead, she'd creep up to the house with Bruno Mars on the radio. Knowing her husband, it would be the last time she would get to hear Bruno Mars. His songs about sex and cocaine are way too secular for the reverend of a respectable church. And as Mrs. Reverend, she was a reflection of him and his righteous way of life. Listening to Bruno ask his girl why she would want to fight with him instead of making love brought back memories. Not of the good times with her husband, as few as there were before she left, not even of the bad times with her husband. No, it brought back memories of sitting front row center at Bruno's Romantics concert while she passed through the DMV to get back to St. Stephen's. Boy, that man had moves on him. It rejuvenated her spirit and gave her joy to see him perform. Now, did she detour to see him on her way back to her husband's house? Yes. Yes, she did. She loved her son and she needed to tell him that to his face, but seeing Bruno perform his new material and generate joy and excitement in a stadium-sized crowd was the perfect way to end her trip of self-love and discovery before entering the stagnation and invisible chains that waited for her in St. Stephen's. Hattie Mae rounded the corner toward the graveyard and church, a murder of crows lining the roof making the sight ominous. There was a nasty knot in her stomach knowing that she'd have to face her husband soon. She'd have to explain what she did while she was gone, who she did while she was gone, and how she got the money to do all of it. Maybe distracting herself with Bruno wasn't a good idea. Maybe she should have played out the scenario in her head a bit. She hit a speed bump as she approached the graveyard, and her car did a nasty dip, making her phone and purse hit the floor at her feet. Well, that was new, and there was never anything new in St. Stephen's. Since when did the road leading to the church have a speed bump? She reached down to pick up her phone that felt too close to the pedals for comfort. When she brought her attention back to the road, she saw a black lace blur fly past her car, followed by a man in a black hoodie and joggers. She wasn't going very fast, but she still stood on the brakes from the complete shock of it all. She barely missed the man, stopping only a few inches in front of him. She gripped her chest to take a deep breath before winding down the window and sticking her head out. "Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness, are you all right, young man?" Hattie asked in her old black lady voice that usually got her out of trouble. The man simply turned to stare at her. What Hattie Mae saw under that hoodie made her scream, and she hit the gas full throttle, knocking the man over. She was still screaming as she looked in the rearview mirror and saw the man get on 4 legs, then 2. She didn't stop screaming till she was in front of the old plantation house that her husband inherited when he became reverend 35 years ago. "What the hell was that?" Hattie cussed. That was something she'd have to monitor now that she was back home, but right now it felt completely appropriate. "What the hell was that?" she said louder. She knew she should get out of the car. She knew she should get inside, but she couldn't move. That man, well, it wasn't a man. It was a wolf or dog or... No, that's not right either. Dogs don't walk on 2 legs. Whatever it was, Hattie Mae had the feeling she was never supposed to see it. At least, not yet. The brief moment she looked in its eyes made her spine tingle with dread. She looked in the rear view to see if that thing had chased her and sighed in relief that it hadn't. Her relief was short-lived when a pair of gloved hands pulled her out of the car through the open driver's side window. Hattie tried to scream but couldn't. The gloved hands quickly slammed her to the ground, knocking the wind out of her. Just as Hattie Mae gained her bearings, a woman dressed in black lace climbed on top of her. Hattie tried kicking and punching to get away, but it was like the woman had phantom limbs that held her down. She was immobilized. No, Hattie was paralyzed. The woman on top of Hattie was wet. Globs of mucus and blood hit Hattie's face as the woman lifted her veil and leaned over till the two were nose to nose. You ain't Beulah. The woman thing spit in Hattie Mae's face. Where's that devil negress? Hattie Mae didn't have a response. Not that it mattered. She couldn't move her lips, let alone her tongue. The most she could do in the moment was breathe and blink. I said, where is that nit? A rumbling howl reverberated through the air, like a wolf's howl almost. But it was too deep and unnatural to belong to anything on this plane of existence. Instinctually, Hattie knew it was a call, the sound of death coming. The woman thing on top of her looked toward the sound and shuddered, fear weaving its way through her exposed veins. Dear God, this woman thing was skinless. Hattie knew what this woman thing was. She came across something like it before. When her mother took her to the new black doctor in Charleston, they said it was just sleep paralysis. But when she told her grandmother what she saw and what it did to her, her grandmother circled her bed with salt, then made her rest and eat fresh fruits and good meats for a few days so she could regain her strength. Hattie couldn't think of what her grandmother called it, but she knew there was no way out till the woman thing let her up. The woman thing did not let her up, however. Instead, it flipped her over and used something sharp to cut Hattie from the top of her skull to the crack of her ass. Then it carefully peeled Hattie's dark skin off the meat of her body, leaving the muscle and fat and veins exposed. Hattie still couldn't fight or scream, so she opted instead to pass out, with Bruno Mars still humming from the car radio. When Hattie Mae came to, the sun was peeking over the horizon. She had no clue how she got to the tree line that bordered her home and the forest beyond. She just knew that everything hurt. With no skin to protect her meat from the world and no energy to move or get help, she was going to die an agonizing death. But thank God she took that last year to live. Just as she painfully exhaled all hope from her exposed lungs, a wet nose pushed up against her cheek. The man in the black hoodie found her. He was still on all fours, and he sniffed at her, investigating as a dog would. The man sighed in disappointment. Clearly, Hattie was not what the man was hoping to find. Please, Hattie eked out. Please kill me. Unfortunately for you, it's not your time yet, the man in the black hoodie said. At least, Hattie thinks he said it. She heard his voice, but his dog-like maw never moved. The man in the black hoodie put her over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. As he moved toward the graveyard beyond the trees, Hattie saw her husband stumbling away from that woman thing perched on the carcass of that stupid tree that used to impose over their front yard. Baby? Hattie, is that you? Her husband shrieked out. She could barely hear him as the man in the hoodie moved her further away from the scene. Oh, don't worry. My uncle has a child posted up in this town. It won't be long before my cousin does her job so I can do mine, the man in the hoodie said in a reassuring tone. Hattie Mae was not reassured. Part 2. Ro sighed in relief as she settled into her altar room / hat storage room. The Devereaux B&B was at full occupancy because of the Sinner and Saints Festival the mayor cooked up. It was an old tradition of the town and the late spring before the heat drove everyone inside. In the church parking lot, there would be dice, cards, food, and booze. And those who didn't partake in such revelries would fellowship inside the church and pray for the souls of everyone else on the parking lot. Normally, those old sinner and saints parties would have a fundraising goal attached. This year, however, it was a full 3-day street festival to help drive people into town. With a few social media posts and well-placed sponsored podcast ads, the mayor of St. Stephen's completed his mission. It was day 2 of the festival and people were still showing up praying for a room in Rose B&B. The Devereaux House, being in the center of town, made it a prime stay for festival goers. Those who were not fortunate to stay at the Devereaux House were shipped in and out of town via train. That was a win in and of itself. A middle-aged white man named Sarge and his black cat Carla used to call the train station home. Ro used to go out there to make sure the man had food and clean clothes. That is, until one morning, Sarge and Carla showed up at her doorstep. Carla the cat was frantic, howling and crying. Sarge was almost dead on his feet, and he gripped a black lace veil that he must have collected on one of his hunts or maybe belonged to his dead wife. He looked like he fought off some wicked animal. There was the distinct smell of rotten eggs on his breath. What was worse is that he kept rubbing at his chest like he was trying to soothe some sort of pain away. When Ro and her sister Lynn finally got Sarge and Carla settled in a room, the man slept for 3 days straight. But that was months ago, and now Sarge and Carla called the Devereaux House home. Having Sarge around was a blessing. The man never spoke and always took care of the house. If something squeaked, Sarge fixed it. If a mouse came in, Carla caught it. If new visitors came around while Ro and her spiritual sister Lynn Wynn were helping spiritual clients, Sarge lifted the heavy bags up the steps and Carla purred in greeting. Even now, the two were off helping guests as she took a moment to complete her daily ritual before time slipped away from her. Ro grabbed her broom and brushed down her body toward the floor. She lit a charcoal disc and, once it was hot, sprinkled a 3 Kings resin blend and fanned the smoke over her body. Spirits divine, that which exists between space and time, I seek to find my power through you. Fill my body with your essences of life, wealth, wisdom, and joy, so I may see myself whole before death takes me to glory. As a child of the Crossroad King, I say all of this, knowing that I am heard. After 3 rings of the bell, Rose sat on a cushion in front of her altar and grabbed her family book. She thumbed through till she found a passage she enjoyed, something that an ancestor by the name of Old Man Moultrie wrote about his life and impending death. Death comes for all of us, sometimes before we are ready. That's why we must live, Old Man Moultrie wrote, and Ro could essentially hear him say, I know death comes for me. I know death follows me. I can hear the howls of his reapers, but I am not afraid to die. My brother James would teach that through God, you need not be afraid of death. Heaven awaits the faithful. But that's not why no fear sits in my heart. I am not afraid to die because I lived and I lived joy forward. In times of trouble, joy feels distant and expensive. But joy is not a luxury. It's in the song sung in the fields. It's in the greens prepared by a good woman. I found it in the hunts with my brother James. We children of the crossroad are under the demands of our community, but no matter the pressure we find ourselves under, We must seek joy in all things. So when death comes, we can die without fear or regret. Ro exhaled slowly as she mulled over the words. Joy is not a luxury. Joy and all things. Can she say she lives joy forward? Does she actively seek joy? Seeing her town doing well gives her joy. Listening to her sister Lynn sing gives her joy. And eating Miss Neck's greens and smoked meat does in fact give her joy. Old man is right about that. Though Dr. Lee would tell her she should seek that joy a little less often since her blood pressure is as high as the clouds. Ro looked out the window and continued to list other moments of joy in her life. The crows picking around in her garden brought her joy. She befriended them a while ago by helping one of the birds unwedging itself from the fence and then feeding it. The single act of kindness led to 2 more blackbirds, then 3, and then a full murder of crows swirling around her home and dropping trinkets in her garden. The birds also helped her reputation with out-of-towners. They thought it was spooky and cool that the witch lady who owns the B&B had a murder of crows at her beck and call. Whenever anyone mentioned the crows as her familiars, she never corrected them. The fact that they were just normal birds doing normal bird things was whimsical enough. Ro followed the flight pattern of one of the crows as it broke from the murder to land near a man dressed in all black, standing not 2 feet from the window she was staring out of. Once the man knew he had her attention, he gave her a beckoning nod. Without thinking, Ro gripped her signature skeleton key necklace and began to mutter, I am a child of the crossroad, and my blessings find me. No weapon formed against me shall prosper or succeed. I am a child of the crossroad, and my blessings find me. No weapon formed against me shall prosper or succeed. I am a child of the crossroad, and my blessings find me. No weapon formed against me shall prosper or succeed. She read about the figures in black before, shadow things that you usually saw out the corner of your eye. They were attracted to whatever spiritual output that was coming from Ro and the house. They were typically harmless. They just wanted to watch. But she'd been seeing this particular shadow thing for months now, ever since Sarge showed up. Every time it came by, a sense of dread wrapped itself around her spine, and one of her houseplants died. She never looked it in the face, though the black hoodie it wore obscured its features, and she never answered its call to come to him. There was no doubt in her mind that if Ro went to that man in black, she would never come back home. Rapid knocking at the door brought Ro back to her altar space and stopped her protection blessing. Come in, Ro said. The door creaked open and Sarge came to sit next to her, and Carla sat on her lap and purred. Carla soothing her in this moment made absolute sense. Cats were sensitive like that, but Sarge, positioning himself between her and the window, could not be explained. Ro looked past him to the man in black, still standing outside her window, still waiting for her. Then she looked back at Sarge. What's going on, Sarge? Sarge pointed at his watch. Ro took his wrist for a better look. Well, shit. I guess I've been in here longer than I thought, huh? Give me a moment and I'll be ready to go. Sarge nodded, then got up to leave. Sarge, Ro called for him as she grabbed his leg to stop him from leaving. Sarge, do you see that man outside that window there? Sarge looked out the window, tilting his head this way and that. Then he brought his attention back to Ro and shrugged his shoulders as if to say, "What man?" It was the first time Ro pointed out a shadow man to someone else. If Sarge said no, that would be the end of it. Not like he'd go off telling people she saw strange things. The man didn't talk. She feared if she told her sister Lynn, the woman would make a fuss. Or if she told her aunties, the two of them would demand she perform an exorcism of the whole town. It's a good thing she didn't tell them, because if Sarge didn't see it, they wouldn't see it. "Never mind," Rose said as she placed Carla on the ground next to her and stood up with Sarge's help. "How about we go to the festival, huh? Today we seek to find joy in all things, and I have a booth to run." Sarge smiled down on her and tucked one of her curls behind her ear. Then he held out his hand for her to take. Ro sighed and took his hand. In that moment, she found joy in the fact that she wasn't alone. She found joy in the fact that she was safe with a new friend, and she'd see the rest of her found family soon. With a new determination, she let Sarge lead her out the room into the festival. Ro was filled with so much determination to chase joy and have a good time, she forgot to shoo Carla out of the altar room. There was so much for that cat to get into, and normally Ro ushered her out before closing the door, but not today. Today, Carla the cat hopped on the windowsill. The small furry thing pulled its ears back and lifted its haunches in the air. She was ready to strike at any moment, and she hissed at that man in black to let him know she meant business if he came any closer to her people. The man in black gave a low growl that only Carla could hear. The two would have still be locked in a deathly showdown if Sarge hadn't double backed and signaled for Carla to join him. The cat gave one more hiss as if to say, "Follow us if you dare." Then she heeded her companion's command. Part 3. The reverend turned over in his bed at the sound of his alarm. It was the second day of the Sinners and Saints Festival. While most of the town partook in the nonsense the mayor had cooked up on Main Street, some of his flock still came to church for prayer and wailing hour, as was tradition. As much as he wanted to roll over, he knew he shouldn't. He reached out for his wife, hoping to hold her a bit before the day started. Ever since she got back, he took any chance he could to touch her. He was disappointed when he found the spot next to him cold and empty. He threw his mind back to the night before. He went to bed alone too, he recalled. But she had come home. They made love last night, though the details were fuzzy. With a stretch, the Reverend got up from the bed and wandered over to the window. Lately, it's taken him a while to shake off the fatigue that too much sleep often brings. He should probably see Dr. Lee about the fatigue and the weird, heavy feeling in his chest when he stretched. Below, he saw his wife kneeling where a huge tree in his front yard used to stand. Before, she would simply sit on the front porch and read a Bible verse or two and contemplate the wisdom it held. And every morning for years, he had to hear her complain about the damn tree being a dangerous eyesore. But since she's gotten back, his Hattie has started kneeling at that tree like she was mourning over its loss. A crow flying above her squawked like it too was in mourning over the death of that tree. Mrs. Reverend shooed the crow away from the tree stump by tossing a pebble at it and yelling. The crow dodged the pebble and then gave a squawk as it flew away back to its murder. The Reverend decided not to think too hard about it. He went downstairs and made 2 cups of coffee. He took his black. Hattie Mae took hers with flavored creamer, no sugar. He wandered out to his wife lazily, admiring her shape as she stood to greet him. "Good morning, husband. I thought you'd sleep the day away." "Late night, late start. We aren't all as young as we used to be." The Reverend kissed his wife and pretended not to notice her stiffening in his embrace. He handed her coffee to her. Mrs. Reverend sniffed at it but never drank it. "So, what are we up to today, husband?" "Well, we have to set up for whaling hour later tonight, but I figured we might wander around the festival. Let the townsfolk see you, maybe get some funnel cake. I hear there's singing going on tonight. It's not going to be all gospel music, but maybe we could dance a bit." "If that's what you want, that's what we'll do," Mrs. Reverend said in compliance. She brought her coffee mug up to her lips again, though she still didn't take a sip. "I can't believe the town still celebrates Sinners and Saints' Day, or how big it's gotten. Did you know Sinner and Saints' Day was started as a way to give a holiday to the sharecroppers round here? Old man and his brother, what was his name? James, I think. Yeah, the two came up with the idea and brought it to the surrounding farms. Not like the Devereaux would ever say no to old man or his brother. For two niggers, they sure did hold a lot of weight around this town." The Reverend flinched at the word niggers and did his best not to correct his wife. The word was inappropriate, and he'd never heard Hattie say it so freely before. Instead of correcting her language, he asked, "Where'd you hear all this? I know a lot about this town, but I don't think anyone knows how Sinner and Saints got started." "Oh, I heard all about it growing up. Big Daddy never stopped talking about the Moultrie brothers." "I remember spending many days chasing your skirts when we were kids. I don't remember your father talking about the Moultrie brothers other than my daddy and my uncles." Mrs. Reverend bit her lip and took a deep breath. She looked far away, like she sent her mind somewhere else. But I remember. Husband, I swear I remember," she trailed off. Then the waterworks started. The first time Mrs. Reverend broke down in hysterics was the day after she got back. Sometime in the night, she slipped out, and when she came back, she looked like she got into a fight with a cat. The Reverend stripped his wife of the black lace funeral wear she showed up in. The lace was delicate, so much so that a piece of her black veil was torn off in her skirmish. The woman couldn't say how she got the ancient getup or why she left in the middle of the night. Once he got his wife cleaned up, she stood in front of the mirror and started to wail. "This can't be right," she called between cries while gripping her skin. "It's so dark and it doesn't fit right. This just can't be right." He held her all night while reciting whatever soothing Bible verse came to mind. And when that didn't work, he kissed her and told her that he thought she was beautiful and perfect. That did the trick. She even joked, "At least there isn't a tail back there, right?" He didn't find that joke funny, because what did that even mean? He didn't find this moment funny either. He reached out to her to hold her and kiss her like he'd done every time she started to cry, but she pulled away. No. Ever since I got back, you've been treating me like I'm crazy." "Hattie, baby, I don't think you're crazy. We've been together since we were kids. I'm just saying I've never heard such stories. I've never heard you call your father Big Daddy either." Mrs. Reverend wailed louder. Clearly the Reverend said all the wrong things. When she started to walk away from him, he gently held her wrist to keep her in place. "Hattie, maybe you heard talk of it round town and just got confused," the Reverend tried. "You have been wandering around a lot more since you got back. Perhaps one of the town folks told you or you overheard it somewhere." Her tears dried up as fast as they had appeared. "Yes,
Husband, I think you're right. I think I did hear about it around town. See? Just a little confused is all. Ain't no need to scamper off. And baby, please stop calling me husband. I have a name, remember. John? Hattie tested out like she wasn't allowed to say his first name and she might get in trouble for trying. The reverend pulled his wife closer to him and stuck his nose in her hair. That's not exactly what she used to call him when the times were good, but he knew if he brought that up, she would just start crying again. You've been gone for so long. I'm just really glad I get to hold you. John, I don't even remember why I left. The argument was big, but more of the same, I suppose. They all blur together after a while. Just know I was a jackass. And I'm sorry. I promise I'll keep being the man you deserve. No more arguments. Just keep loving me. The hum of a large truck creeping up the driveway disturbed the moment. Ma, Pop, I brought breakfast, John Jr. said.
Mrs. Reverend all but leaped out of her husband's arms as she passed him her still full coffee mug and ran to her son.
Junior, she squealed. Oh, I'm so glad to see you this morning. Ma, you saw me last night, Junior chuckled as he caught his mom's embrace. The family meandered back into the house with Junior and Hattie chatting and the Reverend trying to keep up. Oh, what a lovely girl you chose for yourself, son. We had such a wonderful walk last night. Mama, I knew you would like us together. You kept telling me to ask her out even before you left, remember?
Mrs. Reverend dodged the question by giving a simple,
and grabbed plates and such out of the cabinets. Then she added, she's got such nice light skin, very clear, and she was so charming. The two of you will make me lovely grandbabies. I don't think we got that far yet, Ma, Junior said. It's only been 3 dates so far. You introduced your mother to your girlfriend after 3 dates. The Reverend sat at the table. He held his hands out for his wife and son and then blessed the food quickly so they could continue the conversation. I reintroduced them, Junior said before stuffing waffles in his mouth. Yes, I've been gone so long I forgot the girl's face. Yeah, and honestly, it wasn't on purpose, Pop. We just kind of ran into Ma while we were walking to the Devereaux house. Please don't tell me you were seeing that Devereaux lady, the Reverend said on a laugh as he dipped his chicken in the syrup on his waffles. Don't even joke about that. My boy would never touch one of those new Devereaux,
Mrs. Reverend said on a hiss.
Both men stopped chewing. Her response was vicious and odd. New Devereaux? I mean, she's new to town, but Ro is from the same family that's always been in that house, Junior tested.
Mrs. Reverend tilted her head and narrowed her eyes at her son.
And you are too good for any of them niggers who inhabit that house. They are dangerous people, Junior. Mama, didn't you grow up with Remus and... Well, obviously, he's not dating Ro, the Reverend said with a forced laugh. He slid his eyes to Junior and shook his head as if to say, quit it. And we do not suffer witches in this house. Hattie Mae's expression lit up. Of course not, husband. I mean, John, we are good, respectable people, not to be fooled with. We do not play in the mud, Junior. Junior opened his mouth, prepared to question his mother on her language and train of thought, because What did any of that mean just now? Before he got the chance, the Reverend cut in again. Well, if you aren't seeing Ro, why were you going to the Devereaux house? Well, Pop, I was walking Lynn home from the festival. Excuse me? That might actually be worse,
the Reverend exclaimed the same time Mrs. Reverend said,
That woman lives with the Devereaux? It's not worse because Lynn is her own person and I like her. And Ma, Ro and Lynn are practically sisters at this point. You liked Lynn, remember? You just said I should make babies with her. That was before I knew she was sisters with that nigger witch,
Mrs. Reverend exclaimed.
Her fork and knife were gripped so tightly in her hands that if Ro and Lynn were present, both men would be sure
she would stab them.
Junior and the Reverend shifted to look at each other, then back to Hattie. Hattie, baby, maybe we should talk about this later. Let's just finish eating and put our minds toward happier things, like what we want to try first at the festival. There is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live. That each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is the gift of God. Ecclesiastes 3, verses 12 and 13. John muttered out of pure habit. He was used to his father spouting verses off whenever he wanted to make a point or whenever he needed comfort.
A moment of silence filled the room before Mrs. Reverend pushed her chair back from the table.
I've lost my appetite. I'll go get ready so we can be happy and do good.
Both men looked at her plate.
She hadn't touched the food, not even to dress and cut the waffles.
Once she cleared the room, Junior looked to his father.
So what the fuck was that? I mean, she's been a little off lately, but she's saying the N-word now? And, Pop, weren't her and Remus Devereaux like super friendly before he left town? I distinctly remember her defending him in arguments with you when I was younger. He's the whole reason why she meditates in the morning. The Reverend rolled his shoulders back, then rubbed at his chest when the muscles there started to pull uncomfortably. He put his head in his hands and stifled a yawn. Really, Pop? You always got something to say. You don't have anything to say about this? Before the Reverend could answer, the landline rang. Junior sat back in his seat with a huff, and the Reverend took the opportunity to escape the question. This is the Reverend, he said, hoping he sounded more cheerful and alive than he felt. Oh, Mayor, I am happy to hear from you. I'll be downtown in an hour or so. Junior stood up to stand next to his dad. The phone call didn't mean the conversation was over, and Junior wanted to make sure his father didn't escape. Well, oh no, that's a vicious attack. I'll make sure I swing by the clinic before I go to the festival. Another beat. Oh, yes, Mrs. Reverend will be there. She's so excited to see you and regrets she hasn't done so earlier. Well, all right, Mayor. I will see you later. Well, John said expectantly. That was the mayor. Obviously. You know Jim from the liquor store. He was found on a side street near Miss Neck's cafe. Something attacked him last night. Oh, damn. Is he going to be all right? Yeah. Dr. Lee said he needs rest, and he needed a few bandages from the scratches on his chest. Apparently, he wasn't sure what got him. He sat down to rest. The next thing he knew, he just couldn't move. Oh, you think he was an out-of-towner? From the festival, I mean? Maybe. Probably Jim drank too much of his own product and decided to sleep where a coon called home. The Reverend shook his head and gave a humorless laugh. That does sound like Jim. I'm glad you don't see too much of him anymore. I said I was gonna be better, son. Junior nodded his head. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he got attacked by her. The Reverend stopped short. That can't be right. I mean, the diabolical Devereaux were in town, so anything was possible. They do all that juju madness and weird things just crop up. But those things, the Reverend couldn't remember the name of what they're called, but that kind of thing was just folklore. The stuff old people before him whispered about to make children behave. You know, Lynn, Mama, and I were near there. Actually, it's not too far from when I saw Mama out for a walk and I introduced her to Lynn. You don't say, the Reverend said. The heaviness on his chest felt tighter, and walking on eggshells around his wife wore him out. At least that's the story he told himself. He moved to sit down. Yeah, Junior said as he followed his father. I tried talking Mama into seeing the Devereaux house. I wanted to show her the landscaping. But she said she didn't want to interrupt our night and she needed to get home to you. Mrs. Reverend did make it home. The Reverend remembered her waking him up. They kissed and touched like married people do. But the next thing he remembered, he was waking up with her side of the bed empty. Whatever happened in between was a blur. Pop, you okay? You look like you could go for a nap and you just woke up, so. Yeah, Junior, I'll be all right. I think your mama had the right idea. I'll go get dressed, have an easy morning before tonight's activities. Why don't we meet you at the festival? Junior knew when he was being dismissed. So he stood and said, Don't think I forgot about what just happened, Pop. Mama's been acting strange since she got home, and it's only getting worse. Part 4. Hello, sinners and saints, hopefully more sinners than saints. I am Lynn Wynn, this is the house band, and I hope you are ready to shimmy and shake. The crowd in the town square was large. Some had blankets and baskets open on the lawn. Some pulled out camping chairs and parked it right in the middle of the street. Regardless, the festival crowd was sweaty, full on street food, and drunk on spiked Arnold Palmers. Folks got to their feet as Lynn Wynn started a gospel rendition of Avi Copland's Move Our Soul. Her hips swiveled and her feet stomped as the drummer pushed into a praise break, and the crowd was loving it. The blend of praise music with clearly spiritual, non-religious lyrics fit the theme of sinners and saints. Leave it to Lynn and the house band to whip a crowd and elevate the spirit of the town. With her shift at her booth done, Ro was ready to enjoy the night. First on her agenda, shimmy and shake with the rest of the sinners, while the saints prayed for them in the church 15 minutes up the road. She was almost at the town square, a spiked drink in her hand, when a blur of black moved in the corner of her eye. Nope, not tonight, Rose said to herself. She knew what it was. It was the shadow man, the one that was outside her window. She was protected, she was blessed, she was a child of the crossroad, and no weapon formed against her could prosper or succeed. The shadow man probably just wanted to soak up the spiritual energy that Lynn was whipping up with her songs. No one was in trouble. Ro was off duty. There was no harm. There was no foul. To prove her point, Ro sang along as Lynn and the band started their next jam, Happy by Pharrell. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. The shadow man stood near an alley between Next Cafe and the start of the festival booths. He stared at Ro and then clapped twice on beat. I said no, Ro reiterated. She sipped the rest of her spiked drink and gave a 2-step shuffle as she got up to where the shadow man stood. This was her first time so close to the shadow man, and wait, was he solid? Like corporeal? Shadow people are not corporeal. What the hell was in this Arnold Palmer? Ro was about to dig into her purse to text Jim, the owner of the liquor store and sponsor of the festival's boozy cocktails. Then she remembered he was at the clinic because of exhaustion. Or was it a fight with a wild thing that wandered into town last night? Oh, the booze was making it hard for Ro to remember. Ro returned her attention back to her task. Joy, dancing, and more libations was only a block away. She just had to make it without more drunk hallucinations of creepy and weirdly corporeal shadow men trying to distract her. Please stop, Ro heard a weak voice say from the mouth of the alley. Oh, God, now she was hearing things. I just want to go home. Please stop. It was a male voice speaking. And God, she knew that voice. Arnold, is that you? Ro, please help me. Ro stood at the mouth of the alley. Her eyes flicked into the darkness, then at the shadow man, then back to the darkness. The shadow man tilted his head, inviting Ro to go down the alley. Now, Ro wasn't born in the South, but she wasn't a fool. Clearly, you don't answer when your name is called from the void, especially when an ominous thing wanted you to go toward that voice. So she stood rooted in place as the voice said again, Ro, help me. What if Arnold was in trouble, though? Could she live with herself if she didn't help him? Ro, stop. She's gonna kill me. Please, Ro, help. The voice of Arnold said again. Ro took a tentative step toward the alley and that voice and the shadow man standing there like a keeper to the void. And that's when she heard the scariest thing. It was a skittering. That's the best way Ro could describe it, skittering. Like if a giant multi-legged thing with diamond pinpointed legs skittered across glass. It was an unnatural sound for the space and knocked the tipsy fog from Ro's mind. It was so unnatural, even the shadow man turned its hooded head to look. Then the shadow man got on all fours and snarled like a dog. That made Ro take a few steps back, fear creeping up her spine. Oh, hell no, Ro exclaimed. And as she turned to run, she ran smack into Sarge, Carla the cat, perched on his shoulder. Sarge held Ro steady, concern on his face. Sarge, we have to... Ro turned back to the shadow man dog thing, but it was gone. And in his place was Arnold. The real deal Arnold. He was crawling out of the alley. His hands reached out to her. Ro pushed down the fear and ran to Arnold. His shirt was shredded like he was attacked by an animal. She reached in her bag to pull out everything, but bandages mostly. She almost had me, Ro. She almost... Shh. I'm sorry. I thought you were something... I'm sorry, Arnold. I'm here now, and I'm here to help you. No, Ro. That thing, it wasn't right. It was Mrs. Calm yourself, Arnold. We'll get you to your wife. Just rest for a moment. I'm almost done bandaging you up. Ro finished up her work, then gestured for Sarge. Without saying a word, Sarge came over and helped the man to his feet. It was obvious Arnold wanted to say more, but whatever happened in that alley took the air out of his chest and left him dazed. Sarge, just get Arnold home to his wife. I'll call Dr. Lee to come see if he can make a house call, okay? Sarge nodded and walked Arnold away from the town square and toward the residential side of town. Carla hopped off Sarge's shoulder and came to stand at Roe's feet. Arnold looked back at Roe, his eyes coated in fear. It's gonna be all right, Arnold. Just let Sarge help you home, Roe called. She dug into her bag for her phone. She was about to call Dr. Lee, but Lynn's key change as she belted out Stevie Nicks' Edge of 17 made it very clear that any call Roe made would be drowned out by the festivities. Come on, Carla. Just one more thing to do, and then I promise we can party. A large purple fabric tent with a huge sign that read, Readings with the Diabolical Devereaux, came to view as Roe and Carla trotted to the closest quiet sanctuary. Inside the tent was an exaggerated version of Roe's altar room. There were electric candles spread about, lush oriental rugs. Fairy lights were strung about the roof of the tent. In the center of the tent was a small table flanked by 2 high-back plush velvet chairs. On the table sat a simple white pillar candle and cauldron-shaped incense holder. The whole place smelled like star anise and other spices. It wasn't the supernatural fortress of the Devereaux house, but it was close enough, and the matter with Arnold was urgent. Just as Roe found Dr. Lee's number in her phone, the flaps to the tent opened. Roe picked up a sharp selenite tower, prepared to use it against whatever it was that followed her, but dropped it when she realized who joined her in the temporary sanctuary. Are you lost, Reverend? Roe said, shock in her voice. Or are you just following me around again? The Reverend cleared his throat. I'm here to see you, Ms. Devereaux. Roe exhaled a breath as the fear creeped back up her neck. She wasn't sure what was scarier, the shadow man, dog thing, the skittering thing that attacked Arnold, or the Reverend. The shadow man dog never attacked her. He just stood creepily and tried to get her attention. The skittering thing that attacked Arnold was definitely gone. She heard it run away, hence the skittering. But the Reverend was a man, a woman's natural predator when they wanted to be, and the Reverend stalked her for the better part of a year as she moved about town. Maybe this was his chance to do whatever he was working up the nerve to do. She was alone. I mean, Carla was there, but no one would hear her scream over the concert going strong in the town square. And her only companion in the tent was more interested in licking its paws than anything the humans were doing. What do you want? Roe's voice was small and unsure, and she hated it. So she cleared her throat and tried again. Because we both know you could have seen me at any time, Reverend. There. The false confidence coated each word that time. I sincerely need your help. The kind of help that only a child of the devil could provide. Ugh, get out. Roe's annoyance overrode whatever tension had built in the moment. I am sincerely asking for your help, Devereaux. I was told by my son and the judge and your aunties that you help the people of this town. And why would I help the man who has stalked me and thinks I'm the devil's daughter? Get out. Make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy, the Reverend quoted Hebrews. Peace my ass, Reverend. This is more of a Book of Romans situation. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. So tell me, Reverend, why should I feed you? Why should I give you something to drink? after you stalked me these last months? Because I think I know what hurt Jim. And I'm guessing it's the same thing that hurt Arnold. Ro narrowed her eyes. So you were following me again. You know that doesn't help your case, right? And what's been hurting me? The Reverend lifted his shirt to show scratch marks across his chest, even visible with the smattering of curls resting above the marks. Well, fuck me, Rose said as she sat down. Carla took that moment to jump on her lap and purr, not liking the continued elevated state of agitation Rose found herself in. The Reverend tucked his shirt back into his pants and sat down too. So, how does this work? Do you require payment up front? Just tell me what is happening, and I'll tell you if I can help you. I don't collect your soul till the job is done. The Reverend gave Ro a sharp look. You're kidding, right? Ro met his glare, gave Carla a few pets down her back, and then, with a straight face, said, Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. The two let a beat linger between them. The Reverend unsure, Devereaux unreadable. Kidding or not, Reverend, you can't afford to take the chance, can you? You came to me, remember? I'm going to help Jim and Arnold with or without you. It's up to you if you want to do the right thing the wrong way. Ro could see the Reverend weighing his options. Every thought and feeling were floating past his eyes and displayed on his face as he took her in. But he came to her. He had to play by her rules. If he couldn't do that, he needed to march back to the church and did whatever holy men did when they were up against the unexplainable. And he'd have to do it by himself. Ro had Lynn, Mama Green, the aunties, and a plethora of clients in town who owed her a favor. The Reverend had no one but his son, John Jr., and Ro was sure that if he went to his son would just come to her. This moment, the two of them sitting opposite each other, was bound to happen at some point. The Reverend must have come to the same conclusion because he said, Seems I don't have a choice, regardless of what you may take. So start at the beginning. What is it that I can help you with, Reverend? Well, my wife hasn't been the same since she came back. I mean, she's got me on edge all the time. I suppose I deserved that with how things left off between us, but I've made it a point to allow her space, and I listen. I've changed as best as I could for her. Oh, have you now? Well, yes. No drink. I set up her sewing room with Junior, not that she uses it, and I even cut down that tree. I told you not to cut down that tree, if I recall. I have been living in that house longer than you've been alive. I don't need your permission to... You've been living in my house, Reverend. I've let you live rent-free in my house. As is the tradition of my family, we respect the holy men of this town. The Reverend wrinkled his nose at Ro. She was insinuating that the holy men, that he, didn't respect Ro or the legacy she came from. If she was waiting for an apology, she was never going to get one. So instead, Ro lifted an eyebrow at him and said, But please, Continue. Right. The night I cut down that tree and my Hattie came back to me, I thought we were okay. Well, I thought we'd be okay, 'cause I did all the changes that she wanted. But now it seems like it doesn't matter. She doesn't remember anything, and then she tells me stories about this town that she shouldn't possibly know. Stories lost to history. Now that they were in the meat of it, Ro lit up the white candle in the middle of the table. She took deep breaths and focused on the flame. Then she said, "Come on now, Reverend. That's not why you came to talk to me. Tell me why you came. Tell me about what's truly weighing on you. Tell me about the marks on your chest." The Reverend licked his lips as he watched the witch woman let her mind go somewhere else, the flame the only thing mattering to her in that moment. He stood, his brain pushing him to leave, but he simply paced back and forth as his soul spilled the rest of his concerns. She doesn't eat. She never goes to bed with me, always sneaking away from me when we're out on the town or in the middle of the night. And when she does come home and touch me, it feels like something heavy is on my chest. And I wake up feeling like I didn't rest. Maybe it's the stress I have in her back, the feeling I have in my gut that she might leave me again. But then I heard about Jim, and I saw Arnold just now, and I asked around, and someone told me how Sarge came to you. And apparently a few other men in town have experienced the same things. The same things since my wife's been, since I cut down that tree. Yes, Rose said on a chuckle. Yes, but it's not the tree, it's her, isn't it? Yes, she's doing something to you at night. My Hattie would rather leave me to hurt me than actually hurt me, the Reverend said, more to himself than to Ro. Yeah, that might be true, except that's not your Hattie. I can see hands, 8 of them. She's touching your chest and kissing your neck. And then Ro heard that skittering sound again, and it freaked her out. Freaked her out so much so that she abruptly snuffed out the candle. Then the curtain flaps opened, and in walked Mrs. Reverend. What the hell is going on in here? My husband is having a seance with a witch woman? No, baby. Hattie, I was just... Oh. You look just like her, Mrs. Reverend said as she moved closer to Ro. Carla hissed at the woman. I mean, your skin is darker, but the nose gives you away. Beulah is all over your face. Who is Beulah? The Reverend looked between the 2 women for answers. You stay away from my husband, you witch negress. I know what your kind is capable of. Your kind of Devereaux brings curses, and you won't curse my family again. Hattie, baby, calm down. I think Ro understands we're not to be fooled with. Let's try to settle this peacefully. Ro took in the scene before her. What the fuck was this woman talking about? And did she just call her a witch negress? That was a throwback slur if she ever heard one. But wait. Was Mrs. Reverend about to say again? Rose kind of Devereaux wouldn't curse her family again. Ro leaned back in her chair and crossed her legs. She pondered everything she had up until this point. The pieces were there, but it was like she couldn't fit it into the puzzle. The tree being cut down was definitely a start to the problem. And then the Reverend was unable to keep track of his wife. He was trying to tell her something in this moment, but he couldn't quite spit it out. And then the ancestors showed her in the flame the legs, and she heard the skittering. And all the men in town had scratched chests with fatigue afterward. And then realization settled on Rose's shoulders, and that sense of knowing thrummed on her temples. Even though she knew her diagnosis of the situation had to be correct, she wanted to test it. Because if she was wrong, well, let's just say Ro only had one shot of getting this right. Or the entire town would be fucked, starting with the Reverend when he went to sleep tonight. Interesting. Well, Mrs. Reverend, I know for a fact that our family needed to be cursed. The false confidence was back in Rose's voice as she adjusted in the chair, Carla adjusting with her, neither of them taking their eyes off of Mrs. Reverend. You see, you cannot make a deal and then double cross a child of the crossroad. Beulah should have taken what I offered. You offered nothing. You were going to steal from us, steal from me, because you are no better than your spiritually repugnant husband. Ro expected the woman to lunge at her, spit on her, or even swing on her. Maybe turn into the thing that Ro knew she was. The hatred and anger was written all over Mrs. Reverend's sagging face. And the tent was not even close to the supernatural fortress of the Devereaux house. Mrs. Reverend might have taken the bait too, morphed into the monster Rose suspected she was. That is, until the Reverend screamed, "What in all that is holy is going on here? I'm a Moultrie. Holiness of God is in my blood. I am not spiritually repugnant. And who is Beulah?" Mrs. Reverend snapped her attention to her husband. Then she did the one thing that always seemed to get her out of trouble. She started to cry. She wants to break us up. She and that light-skinned negress are going to take our Junior and take you and break up our family. They put some sort of love spell on him, I'm sure of it, Mrs. Reverend wailed. As if on cue, the Reverend reached out for her and pulled her tight to him. He looked at Ro, uncertainty in his eyes. Hattie Mae Moultrie. Ro laced her voice with an unholy authority, the sound pulling past her vocal cords and coming from deep in the spiritual power resting in her belly. Your tears will not protect you from me. This is my town, and you know that to be 100% true. I am not someone to be fooled with. No, Hattie Mae wailed. Carla hopped up on the table, back arching and teeth bared, as Rose stood up and pointed her finger at Hattie. The woman backed up, breaking free of the Reverend's hold and standing behind him instead. You can't tell me no. Beulah's blood runs through my veins. I am a child of the crossroads. I am a diabolical Devereaux, and if I say it, then it is. Ro held that bravado as she stood at them. She was sure that was enough to make Mrs. Reverend reveal her true self. But instead, Mrs. Reverend screamed and ran for the tent entrance. Ro rushed after her, unable to let her enemy get away, but the Reverend stopped her short. I come to you for help and you threaten my wife?
His voice was sharper than a knife, and it brought Ro back to herself. Reverend, that's not your wife.
She is. And I made a vow to protect her, to honor her, and I come to you thinking I shouldn't have come to you, Devereaux. You stay away from my family.
The Reverend ran out of the tent. Once outside, he was stopped short by the sight in front of him. There was a man in a black hoodie across the street staring at him. The Reverend gripped his chest, a phantom pain moving through him. He diverted his gaze as a sense of dread washed over him. Then, out of pure habit, the Reverend said, Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, because the Lord is with me. Ro placed her hand on his back to soothe him, but she never took her eyes off the man in black across the street. You see it too, huh?
Woman, I don't know what you're seeing or what you're doing.
He tried to move away, but Ro's grip on his shirt was strong, and she pulled him back.
You listen to me,
Ro said. She peeled her eyes away from the shadow man and turned to the Reverend toward her. As short as she was, they were never going to see eye to eye, but she did her best to hold his attention. Go home. Love on your wife, but do not let her leave. She's going to try and slip away, but you have to hold her tight. Even if you have to send Junior to lead the saints in prayer, you keep your wife close to you and you keep her in that house.
You listen here, witch. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do, Reverend. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That's why you came to me. You keep your wife close to you. I have to gather up a few things. And I promise you, Reverend, I promise you, I will not leave you in the house with that hag for long. The Reverend stared down at Ro. This is the woman he thought he was meeting tonight, soft-talking, tender-hearted, wanting to help. But that's not who she was a minute ago.
The only hag I see is you. You get away from me, you vile witch.
The Reverend all but spit in Ro's face as he escaped her grasp.
And you keep your intranquil spirits away from me too, he said as he pointed at the shadow man across the street.
And with that, the Reverend ran away from Ro, his hand gripping his chest as he went. The final song of Lynn's set drifted through the town square. Ro used her spiritual sister's voice to ground her back to the surroundings and escape the pressure forming at the base of her spine. 'Cause I'm a voodoo child. Oh, I'm a voodoo child, Ro sang along under her breath as she pushed down the dread that the shadow man dog thing brought with him. There was no need to be afraid anyway. She stared at it from across the street as Carla came outside to join her. The cat placed itself between Ro and the shadow man and hissed a warning. Oh, there's no need for that, Carla, Ro said as she picked up the cat and placed her in the big bag of holding on her shoulder. He's not here for us. The shadow man nodded at Ro, then followed after the Reverend. All right, that's it for me and the house band. Keep your joy and live holy. The crowd screamed, encore, 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 as Lynn finished up her set. Ro really hoped Lynn wouldn't take too long. They had work to do. Part 5. I say it, and so it is, Mrs. Reverend mimicked Ro while pulling the ugliest face she could.
Who does that witch think she is? The Reverend watched as his wife pulled off her wig and set it on the head form. Then she leaned over the bathroom counter and peeled off her eyelashes. The lash glue she used was sticky and unyielding, making the move look like she was going to peel off her entire lash line. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the power of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. The Reverend quoted Ephesians. Mrs. Reverend nodded in agreement as she took a makeup wipe to her cheeks and lips. As she removed the too light in tone caked on foundation, her skin stayed out of place, causing unnatural swirls. Exactly, husband, she responded as she pulled the skin taut so it would lay correctly over her muscle and bone. The Reverend pretended not to notice. He'd been pretending everything was all right up until this point, so why quit now? Husband, Mrs. Reverend said as she tossed the makeup wipe in the trash. Shouldn't you get ready for the wailing hour? The congregation will need you soon, I'm sure. Oh, baby, John has all that covered. A miracle, really. But I told him what happened at the festival and suggested that you and I needed some time to ourselves. But husband, the congregation needs their leader. I know our son can do it, but you are their spiritual strength. The Reverend stood behind Mrs. Reverend and kissed her neck and shoulders. His lips left an imprint. They may need me, but after tonight, I need you. His voice was a low whisper in her ear. I know what would make me feel much better. She turned in his arms and placed a kiss on his lips. The kiss didn't last long, though, as his strong hands gripped her hips and pulled her away slightly. How about we take our time tonight? The Reverend moved away from her and sat on the edge of the clawfoot tub. He turned the spigot and water rushed out. As he put the stopper in the tub, he said, When's the last time we took a bath together? Mrs. Reverend stood paralyzed, her gaze never leaving the stream of steaming water filling the tub. Turn it off, John. Now that my makeup is off, I feel clean enough. But Hattie, baby, you love this tub, and I'm sure I have your favorite Epsom salts around here. John, I said to turn it off. A cry began to form on her lips. Baby, I just wanted you to relax. You've been a crying mess lately, and before you left, a hot bath would ease your spirit. He pulled her close. Oh, I know. How about something to eat? You haven't eaten since breakfast. Actually, she hadn't eaten since she came back into town. Oh, yes, that sounds lovely. Why don't you run your bath with the salt, and I'll slip downstairs and make you something good to eat, husband. Before the Reverend could respond, Mrs. Reverend had already floated away toward the kitchen. When he caught up to her, she was between the kitchen door and the screen door. Where you going, baby? The Reverend questioned. Oh, I thought I heard something outside, but fear lightly graced her face as she peered through the screen, but she shook it off. The Reverend moved the curtain above the sink to reveal a murder of crows flying in formation around their backyard, their squawks in ominous harmony in the night as they finally settled, revealing a large black dog. The dog had the lean face of a Doberman, but the body of a Rottweiler and the coat of a German Shepherd. The dog paid no mind to the murder of crows and their call. It simply watched the house patiently, waiting for something. "Oh, don't that look like something that witch woman conjured up?" the Reverend said, his eyes sliding to his wife. "Husband, I'm scared." Sincerity dripped from each word as she picked up the closest thing to her, a coffee mug, opened the screen door, and tossed it at the crows. Feathers fluttered as the cup smashed to the ground. The crows squawked to each other, and the hound gave a low growl. "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." The Reverend quoted the book of Joshua as he reached absently for a glass in a nearby cupboard and turned on the sink faucet for something to drink. "Well, do you think she's coming here, husband? We need to get out somehow." Mrs. Reverend shut the door firmly and stalked toward the front of the house. The Reverend followed her, the glass of water forgotten. "Wife, we walk in God. We have the covering of Christ's blood. There is no need to be afraid." The Reverend said the words to no one. Just as quickly as she was there, she was gone, like she slipped out of existence. The Reverend unlocked and opened the front door, peering into the night. How did she get away? She couldn't have gone through the devilish growl of a hound filled the night, the sound so terrifying, so unholy, that the Reverend covered his ears as he let out a low-pitched howl of his own. The trees lining the property all swayed, though no wind was present. The murder of crows flew in formation in the air like an arrow, accentuating the rustling of the branches as they followed the disturbance in the nearby forest. Whatever was happening moved further and further from the house. Then the howl stopped. The crows circled. The trees sat still. The Reverend breathed a sigh of relief as the commotion quieted. "Hey, where is she?" Rose's quiet voice came from the side of the porch. The Reverend took a step back, too stunned to speak. "Reverend, are you all right?" Rose adjusted her shoulder bag so it sat across her body. "Reverend, are you all right?" He nodded. She slipped away from you, didn't she?" He nodded again. "Where is her skin?" "What?" It wasn't a question. The Reverend knew the stories, how hags slipped from their skin and jumped through keyholes, but his brain couldn't comprehend what was happening, and his soul was still recovering from the fear caused by the hound's howl. "The skin! Reverend, where is her—" Another piercing howl rang through the night. The murder of crows swung up wide in the sky, squawking their hatred at whatever they were chasing. And then the trees swayed again. This time, whatever was moving was getting closer to the plantation house. The Reverend was about to quote another scripture in attempt to ease the fear shrouding his mind, but Ro beat him to it. "I am a child of the crossroads, and my blessings find me. No weapon formed against me shall prosper or succeed." The key around Rose's neck caught the light from the house as she fiddled with it and took deep breaths. Whatever was coming moved faster, snapping tree branches in their wake. The howls grew louder as it chased closer. The crows led it like an arrow again, this time pointing directly at Ro and the Reverend. Ro got on the porch and pulled the Reverend inside, shutting the door and locking it, before starting a hurried search. I don't see her clothes or her skin. She must have stashed it somewhere before she slipped out, right? The Reverend looked around to see who the woman was talking to, then saw the earring clip headphones in her ear. Girl, it's gotta be around there somewhere. I'll cover out here and see what I can find. And Ro, remember, do what you have to do. Don't count out any measures, no matter how silly. Sis, just be safe. If you find the skin, run to the church or home. Preferably go home. Oh, we should have brought Sarge. He knows these woods better than me and you. And, I hate all this dust. Lynn, only one man for bait. Remember? It's you and me. We cannot give her options. Yeah. The privilege of being a man. Ro huffed out a laugh, then reached in her pocket and ended the call with her spiritual sister. She turned her attention to the Reverend. Reverend, we need to find the skin, salt it, and then we have to... Ro reached into her bag and produced a blue glass box. It was small and easily fit in the palm of her hand. We have to put it in this box. Yeah, skin and box. Wait, what was that about bait? Thump, crash, squawk. Something just landed on the front porch, and the crows were not happy about it. Slop, plop. The front door never opened, but something started to squish itself through the crack of the door. The Reverend grabbed Ro and pulled her into the kitchen before shoving her in the butler's pantry. The sound of the coat closet opened and closed. Plop, plop, zip. Then small thumps of footsteps led from the front door to the kitchen. Mrs. Reverend reappeared, tidying herself as she did. Hattie, baby, what just happened? You were here and then you weren't. That negress Devereaux, she's definitely conjured something. And she told him where I am. She told him what skin I'm in. Her voice was high with distress, and she flitted about as she locked doors and closed blinds. Hattie, baby, you have to calm down. Calm down? Nigga, did you not hear that commotion outside? Mrs. Reverend stood in the middle of the kitchen, fear and anger radiating off her body. Did you not hear that hellhound chasing me? The Reverend could see Ro peeping between the cracks of the butler's pantry door. She was shaking her head no in slow motion. Hattie, baby, what sounds? What commotions? I don't even know where you went. He feigned cluelessness. You must be stupid, or deaf, or maybe... Blessed. Yes, you are blessed and favored. Nothing from hell could possibly touch you. I bet the Devereaux woman is the same. Both of you are Moultries after all, like old man and his brother James. What are you talking about, Hattie? The Devereaux is a Devereaux. She is not a Moultrie. She is not of my family, the Reverend said. This time, his cluelessness was real. Yes, she is. She and you came from the same nigger stock. Old man was a conjure doctor, and James, his brother, was a preacher man, and they taught their offspring to do what they did. Mrs. Reverend started to pace the floor. That new negress Devereaux didn't become a Devereaux until she killed all of us, me and Solomon and... It didn't matter about her mulatto blood or that she married that Clark boy. Beulah was like the old man and her aunt, and this new witch woman is like Beulah. She stopped in front of the Reverend. But you are like James. You're a preacher man. You can keep me safe. Your powers, they can keep the devil away from me. Tears started to form in the corner of Mrs. Reverend's eyes. Real tears, not the performance she put on to get out of trouble and awkward conversations. The Reverend brought her into his arms and wiped her tears away. No devil or haint or hag will ever hurt my woman, not while I'm here. I didn't hear what you heard, but I know that Devereaux is a menace, one that needs to be dealt with. But Hattie, baby, not tonight. Not tonight, Mrs. Reverend said. No, baby, not tonight. Tonight, you need to rest. But I have to get away. The hound and I have to get away before they come for me. No witch could come past my doors. This house is blessed. Are you sure? As sure as God's word is true and the power of his grace fills my soul. Yes, your soul. You are so full of life and faith. Mrs. Reverend pulled back from him and pulled off her shirt. Now, baby, what are you doing? We gotta go slow. Maybe we should wait until we go upstairs. Yes, upstairs. All of this fear and energy. Oh, John, it has me so ravenous. I need to share in your life. I need to feel alive again, she said, as she moved toward the bedroom, removing her bra as she went. The Reverend looked at the pantry. Rose stuck her head out and nodded toward Mrs. Reverend, a silent command for him to follow. He took a breath and did just that. Once in the bedroom, Mrs. Reverend pushed him down on the bed, then crawled to him slowly. She shed most of her clothes between the kitchen and the bedroom, so she straddled him in nothing but her panties. Your love for me is gentle and kind. It feeds me, husband. She pulled at his shirt as she kissed him. The Reverend held his breath, praying. Your spirit so full of faith, it feeds me. And husband, I am hungry. Mrs. Reverend reached to the top of her head, digging around in her hair until she found a flap of skin shaped like the pull of a zipper. She gave it a tug, and the wet sound of skin tearing, giving way as blood started to ooze out of her, filled the room. The Reverend let out a yelp and tried to kick from under her, but it was too late. The hag already shed her skin, letting it fall to the bed next to them. Her legs unfurled, revealing 6 diamond-tipped spider legs. She rode his chest as he bucked, her legs wrapping around his limbs and pelvis to keep him still. She scratched her fingers at his chest and then spit a purple substance into the wound. Immediately, the Reverend went still, the substance paralyzing him. Nigger men require extra restraint. A woman slides on top of you and you lose control. Animals, all of you. With no skin to cover her throat, everything sounded raw and painful. The Reverend looked up at her. That's That's all he could do. He took in her stringy blonde hair and cloudy blue eyes. As she talked, he noticed that teeth were missing or rotten. Shut your eyes. How dare you look at me in disgust? Just like Solomon, Beulah did this to me. It's not my fault. Clink, clink, clink. A crow pecked at the bedroom window. Then another. Then a mournful howl went up in the air. Oh, I slit my skin. He can smell me now. But it doesn't matter, does it? Because no evil can pass. I can take my time with you. Creak, creak. The hag tossed her head to the bedroom door. The reverend slid his eyes too so he could follow and spot what was coming. The creaking turned into outright running. There wasn't much time now. The crows were almost through the glass. The hound was getting louder, and whatever was in the house was getting closer. You lied to me, the hag yelled into the reverend's face. Her mouth opened to reveal sharp, needle-like fangs. She reared her head back, prepared to strike. The reverend continued to pray silently in his mind, sure that the hound outside must have been meant for him as much as it was meant for her. And the worst part, he never got to tell his Hattie that he loved her. He never got to hold her again, never got to say he was sorry. The reverend closed his eyes to accept his fate as the hag struck him with her fangs. Was that a cat? The hag and the reverend turned their attention to the door just in time to see a figure silhouetted in the moonlight streaming in from the almost demolished window. Bring her down, Carla. It was Ro. The reverend sighed in relief. Then, with a blink of an eye, a black cat leapt out of her bag, hissing as it went. The cat attacked, claws extended, ripping at the hag's raw skin. Both the hag and the cat went tumbling back off the reverend. The crows finally completed their goal, and what was left of the window shattered in the room as they swarmed. A ball of feathers and fur and legs tumbled around the room, hissing and skittering and squawking as they went. Ro went to the reverend. You have to get up. We cannot stay here. He was too heavy for her to move on her own. She should have brought Sarge. He turned his attention to the skin laying on the bed next to him, then looked back at Ro. There was no time to move him. Ro picked up the wet slop of skin and shook it out like laundry. She pulled a salt shaker out of her bag and emptied its contents on the skin before she folded it and stuffed it in the blue glass box. Squawk! Meow! Skitter, skitter, skitter. The hag pinned a crow to the wall with one of her diamond-tipped legs. Carla the cat was wrapped up in another leg. The hag had her fangs extended, prepared to take a bite out of the floofy cat. Look! Ro yelped. I've got your skin. The hag turned her attention to Ro. Within a breath, she dropped the cat and lunged at Ro. You give that back, you devil bitch, she screamed. Ro lunged out of the way and went into a full sprint. She crashed into the hallway as the hag skittered over the walls and ceiling, purple mucus dripping from her mouth as she went. Ro was almost to the front door when the hag dropped in front of her, blocking the way. Ro skidded to a halt before pushing off again and making her way to the back door. The hag slipped through the keyhole in the front door. Hard, skittering taps wrapped around the house, and when Ro hit the back door, the hag was there waiting. She spit her purple mucus, but Ro ducked before it could hit her. Growl, howl. The hound lunged at the hag, the two of them tumbling into the house. Ro barely escaped their scuffle as they tumbled around each other from the kitchen to the living room. "Fuck me, I just need out of this house," Ro said as she made her way back to the bedroom. The hag and the hound were hot on her heels. The reverend was still on the bed and Carla was licking her wounds in the corner. Ro paid neither of them any mind as she ran straight for the busted window and dove out onto the front porch covering. Ro tucked and rolled, losing grip on the blue glass box as she went. Ro turned on her back and tried to catch her breath, her bag of holding and the glass box discarded next to her. How! Crash! Skitter, 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 skitter. The hag came out after Ro, landing on its diamond-tipped feet. She reached for the blue glass box, but found she couldn't open it. No, I need my skin. Give me my... The hound bit into her neck and drove her to the ground. Ro, sis, are you all right? Lynn screamed as she came running out of the woods. The box, Ro rasped. Lynn went straight for the blue glass box, picking it up off the ground. Ro, you gotta get up, sis, Lynn encouraged. Go home, remember? Get out of here. Ro sat up, still trying to catch her breath. Was one of her ribs cracked? Without further instruction, Lynn ran. The hag escaped the hound's jaws and punched her legs through its chest. Then she skittered after Lynn. She spit at Lynn, purple mucus flying through the air and landing directly on the back of Lynn's natural hair wig. Ew, 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 Lynn shrieked. The mucus didn't get into any holes or broken skin, so Lynn didn't fall for its paralytic effects. But it was just enough of a distraction for the hag to catch up to her and pull her feet from under her. The glass box in Lynn's hands went flying through the air. Crack! The box shattered as it hit the tree stump in the front yard. Glass splintered into shards and the skin inside unfolded out of it like it was an airbag coming out of a steering wheel. Lynn was on her knees reaching for the skin, but the hag pulled her back and sat on her chest. Lynn kicked and screamed, but the hag spit purple mucus in her mouth. Now paralyzed and no longer a threat, the hag skittered over to the exposed skin. She tucked her spider legs in till she was human-shaped again. Then she stepped into Hattie Mae's skin and waited for it to wrap itself around her body. When it didn't, the hag pulled it up and attempted to zip it closed. But then she pulled it away quickly when she started to feel the burn of the salt. No, the hag said. Skin, you're mine. Skin, you know me. Skin, don't you know me? That is not your skin, Rose said. She held her rib cage with one hand and her bag of holding with the other. Yes, it's my skin. I claimed it. Josephine and Devereaux, Rose said. That is not your skin. She knows my name. Oh God, she knows my name. Skin, please. The hag stepped into the skin again, wriggling in pain as the salt continued to burn her. Yes, I know your name. And it's unfortunate what happened to your son, and it's unfortunate that that tree kept you bound for all these years. But Aunt Josephine, that is still not your skin. Then give me my skin back. Josephine, the hag, tossed Hattie Mae's skin aside. You have the power of Beulah. You say it and it happens. You got the power of her old man. I'll make a deal with you. Just give me back my skin.
I don't know how to do that, Rose said honestly. And if I did, I would never give it back to you. I would never give you your skin.
Your family doomed me, and they stole from me.
The hag's legs began to unfurl, but the burn from the salt made it painful. You doomed you. Beulah did all the heavy lifting. She freed you and your son from that vile and evil man that your husband was. And instead of moving forward in joy, taking advantage of your privilege, you double-crossed her with greed.
I've cheated death before,
Josephine, the hag, said.
And I'll do it again.
Josephine, the hag, finally unfurled her legs. She lunged at Ro the best she could, but the burn from the salt took all the viciousness out of her movement. That is exactly what Ro needed. She reached into her bag and pulled out the dumbest backup plan possible. Just as Josephine the hag reached her, Ro threw a fine mesh net over her. The hag's legs caught in the net. The hag tugged and tried to break free, but it couldn't find the strength to do so. Ro turned to Lynn. I cannot believe that worked.
I told you not to count anything out,
Lynn wheezed back as the paralytic effects from the mucus started to wane. Just to be sure the hag wouldn't break free, Ro limped over to the skin, brought it to where the hag lay in the net, and then shook salt all over her. Josephine the hag squealed and writhed at the pain from the salt. Ro folded the skin neatly, then placed it into her bag of holding. Ro sat next to the hag and put her head in her hands. She was for sure she cracked a rib. The adrenaline from the night's adventures was beginning to wane, and the pain was intensifying. Ro attempted to breathe through the pain when she felt a wet nose on her shoulder. She pushed back, startled, then turned her attention to the hound. It gently rose from 4 legs to 2, and its dog fur morphed into clothes. This figure she knew. This was the shadow man that lurked out her window and appeared around town. Good work, cousin, the shadow man said to her. Well, thought at her? Ro never saw his mouth move. He lifted her up and put her on 2 feet. Ro was helpless to stop him. He put 2 clawed hands on her ribs and pressed. It didn't fix whatever fracture was in her rib, but it did take the pain away. Thanks? Ro moved away until she was settled next to Lynn. She knew that Shadow Man meant her no harm, but that didn't mean she wanted a catalyst of death to touch her any more than it already had. Meet me at your house, cousin, the Shadow Man said. Then he scooped up the immobilized Josephine and stalked into the forest. Part 6. It took a bit for Ro to round up Lynn, the Reverend, and Carla, but the team did make it back to the Devereaux house. For privacy, the group sat in Ro's altar room. Sarge joined them and fed Carla some tube treat as a thank you for all her help. Lynn sat with Ro, attempting to attend to her ribs until Dr. Lee could see them in the morning. The Reverend stood uncomfortably in the corner closest to the door.
Now I have a question. Is what she said true? Are we distant kin. After all you saw tonight, your biggest worry is being blood related to Ro, Lynn said on a side eye to the Reverend. No, I am thankful for all your help. I'm just trying to make sense of things. Yes, Reverend. You and I are related. My Aunt Beulah was the granddaughter of your Uncle Moultrie, your namesake, actually, but he usually went by Old Man. So, what does that make you and I? He asked, shrinking further into the corner of the room. We're black, Reverend, so that makes y'all cousins. Now sit your holy behind down. Nothing in this room is gonna harm you. Might be the safest place in the already fortified house. Lynn all but commanded. Ro laughed. How about we just start with being friendly acquaintances? The Reverend did what Lynn commanded and sat on a plush pillow. His shoulders were still tight, and he couldn't shake the unease. One more question. So, do I have your gifts? Ro took a moment to examine the Reverend as Lynn finished up her bandages. She honestly wasn't sure what to tell him. Did she tell him about the Crossroad King? Did she dive into bloodlines and how the gifts worked? Did she explain the family lore book, maybe? No. One look at his face, the wide eyes and stiff posture, that was enough to know that if she'd said too much, he might just fall over. So she settled on saying, Do you want to be like me, Reverend? He shook his head vehemently. No, I do not. My faith is more than enough to fill me. Then I guess it doesn't matter, huh? The Reverend nodded. It doesn't matter, he repeated. Then he said, But I was wondering something else. Ro arched an eyebrow toward him. Did you use me as bait to lure that hag into slipping out of her skin? You said you didn't want Sarge there. And from what I remember, she only ever sucked the life out of men. So... Tap, tap, tap. Everyone lurched away from the rapping sound coming from the window. The Reverend's question forgotten. After a beat, Ro got to her feet and went to the window. Her crow friends settled on the fence in her backyard, and the shadow man stood where he always did. This time, however, he had a large bundle over his shoulder. Ro sighed, grabbed her bag of holding, and headed for the backyard. The Reverend followed. What's going on? Where are we all headed? What y'all seeing out there? Lynn asked as she trailed behind them, leaving Sarge to tend to Carla by himself. Once in the backyard, Rose stood in front of the shadow man. Cousin, he greeted her. Yeah, cousin, she said back, unsure exactly what that meant in this context. Oh, my God. Do I need to get more salt? Lynn said as she turned back to the house. No, he's not here for us. Not yet, anyway. So you know what I am, cousin. You're a hellhound, a reaper. I got the spirit I was hunting down, so I can return this one to you. The reaper gently laid the bundle on the ground at Rose's feet.
Lynn and the Reverend moved closer for a better view.
Is that a mummy? Lynn whispered to no one in particular.
That is exactly what that looks like,
the Reverend said. Next time, cousin, maybe come to me when I ask.
The Reaper nodded to the humans present, then to the crows, before transforming back into a hellhound and sliding into the darkness of the night. The Reverend knelt down and placed his ear to the mummy's chest. A strong heartbeat greeted him.
It's alive,
he announced. Then he peeled back the bandages on the head, just enough to see the eyes. He knew those eyes. He unwrapped further till he got to bloody lips. He stopped when she yelped in pain. He knew that voice. He sat flat and pulled the mummy into his lap. Tears fell from his eyes in fat drops as he cradled it to his chest.
Oh, Hattie, baby, it's you,
he said between sobs. All right, cousin, that's the end. You made it. All 2 hours, all 46 pages. Before we get out of here, first, please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow wherever you are listening. I love to hear from you. Please be sure to leave me an email, a comment, something. All that is good stuff. Before we get out of here, though, I do want to remind you that you deserve the world. Yes, you do. Lead joy forward. Live with no regret. Take what is yours to take, and if it's not yours, leave it where it sits. As Big Sis would say, live holy. As my mother would say, not a single weapon formed against you shall prosper and succeed. And as I always say, if you call for your blessings, cousin, they will find you. I will see you guys next time.